What if I told you that the luxury car or something along those lines that you just bought could cost you 17 years of your life? Do you know the true cost of the luxury car that you just bought? Or what about the shopping spree that you go on every month? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're looking to accelerate your path towards financial freedom, please comment down below and subscribe to my channel. So, what's the true cost of the luxury car that you just bought? True, it is costing you a certain amount of money. Maybe you're paying through an EMI. But what about the cost on your time and freedom? Let's dive into the math behind this. If you haven't watched my previous video on how savings rate alone can determine how fast you can retire, you should do so. So here's an Excel sheet that I created which shows categories of spend as a percentage of income. So let's say you spend about 25% of your income on basic stuff like rent and grocery, about 10% of children's school fees and any other expenditure, 5 on entertainment, 10 on travel, 10 on shopping, 10 for your car, the luxury car you bought on EMI, and maybe 10 for other miscellaneous things, which means you're spending 80% of your income and saving 20%. Now, how does this translate to how much time you have before you can retire? In this case, it's 54 years. Now, we did look at this in a previous video where savings rate determines how many years you have to retire. I'll just summarize it here. For example, if you save 30% of your income, you have 37 years before you can retire. You can watch my previous video as I said, but in summary, your savings rate can determine how many years you have to retire. So now let's get back to this. So with this typical spend, you have 54 years before you can retire. Now, this is just something that I put across as an example. I'll put the link to the Excel sheet down below in the description, and you can just modify it based on your spend and how much you spend for different things, and this may not be exhaustive. Now let's say you say that, okay, I can do away with not getting a luxurious car, right? So let's say that is 0. So that ends up in you saving 30% of your income and you being able to retire in 37 years, which means it saves you 17 years of your life. Of course, you should decide whether that's important, but it's an example. So let's go back to, 10% spend, right? So let's say, you say, I will spend 5% less on shopping. So, and 5% less on miscellaneous expenses. That again saves you 17 years of your life. So the true cost of simple things that we spend without maybe thinking is pretty important to understand. So let's go back to our original table here. Now let's look at potentially different scenarios that we just saw, right, and the impact that it has. So initially in case 1, you're actually saving only 20% and you have 54 years before you can retire, right, which means you probably can retire in your 70s. Now, you decide that you can reduce your shopping spend to 5% and your miscellaneous expenses to 5%, which drastically reduces your years to retirement to 37, which means you're saving 17 years of your life. Now, you can go further. Let's say you decide that you can spend 5% less on travel and 5% less on car EMI, which means you can actually retire in 27 years, which is a further saving of 10 years. Now, you also then further decide, okay, I don't even need a car. So that means your retirement can reduce to 23 years. So as you can see, by just reducing your travel spends a bit, your shopping spends a bit, maybe not going for a luxurious car, you can actually save 20 to 30 years of your life, which means it's a difference between retiring potentially in your 40s versus never being able to retire or retiring in your 70s. And that's a huge difference. So is a luxury car worth 17 years of your life? That's the question that you should ask yourself. So what does all of this mean? What this means is that it boils down to choices. This doesn't mean that you should not buy a luxury car. All this means is that you should understand that you're making a choice to do so. You should understand the consequences of that choice, the cost, the true cost of buying a luxury car. For example, it could be anything else, is not just the amount of money you pay for it, but the cost is also on how much time and freedom it takes away from your life. It's important to realize that these choices that we make daily, which may seem automatic or simple, actually have far-reaching consequences and dramatic impact on our lives. So if we turn this into math equations, what does it basically mean, right? Time to retire is a function of savings rate. Savings rate then is a function of the choices we make. And ultimately, time to retire is a function of the choices we make. So ultimately, time to retire is a function of the choices we make, not something that is dictated by fate or society. So I urge you to understand where you're spending your time and your money and the consequences that it has on your life. You should make these choices with full knowledge of the consequences that it entails. Comment down below if you have any questions. If you like the video and would like to see more such videos, subscribe to my channel. Happy saving and see you next time.